Well, good afternoon, all. I wasn't planning on shooting a video today because all I'm doing is I want to test some gravel in this spot, and the quickest, easiest way to do that is just run some through the high banker. So there's not a whole lot of science involved here. It's just a matter of running a bunch of this gravel to give me an idea what this river's carrying. I know it has gold, but I haven't been able to find out a whole lot about it, so I thought, what the heck, I'll run the high banker for a bit and just see what's in the gravel. So, what do you say we start moving some gravel? Now, the beauty of the high banker is you can process a lot of gravel in a very short amount of time. We just did one pan, what, 10, 15 seconds? So like I say, you can move a lot of gravel, and this is a tiny high banker, and this thing will work me to death. So let's keep going, because we got to move quite a bit to get a true idea of this gravel bar. Now, one thing when you're running a high banker you want to make sure of is you don't want to run your gravel or your water directly back into the river, because when you get up on the bank like this, there's a lot of organic material and stuff, and you're just going to dump a lot of dirt into the river, a lot of sediment that's not good for the fish and wildlife. So it's best to just make sure you dump it into a settling area where it can settle out, layer up before it goes into the river, and that way you don't cause a problem. Now, the spot I'm digging is into this gravel bar, and I got two big boulders right here, and I'm going down in between the boulders into the gravel bar. And I'm hoping to get, a couple, 3 feet into this gravel bar down to bedrock to see what's in there. Now, normally when I'm running a high banker, I will stockpile my material right next to the high banker, and that way I don't waste fuel while I go get my material. But today I'm working right here, so I'm just digging her out and dumping it in. Now, I would guess I'm probably running about a pan every minute and a half. And I want to run, for like an hour. I figure that'll give me a pretty good idea of what's going on in this gravel bar. Okay, I'm thinking this is my last pan, because my hands are getting sore and my back's getting sore. It's been quite a while. And I got a pretty good pile of tailings here. It tells me I've run quite a bit of gravel through. Okay, time to clean everything up, break it down, and see how we did. As far as breaking down the high banker, you want to clean everything off. So what I do is I just rinse everything off. That way when you put it away, it's all nice and clean. Okay, now we'll pull the grizzly out, clean it off. And then we'll check in here, make sure we don't have any gravel built up, which feels pretty good. Then now, when you shut the water down, you don't want to do it all at once. You want to do it gradually. So I'm going to go slow the pump down. Okay, now we got it down to where there's hardly any water running through. So we can go ahead pull our classifier out. And then we want to put our pan in to catch anything, because once we start messing with the box, we want to make sure that we catch everything that comes out of it. Okay, we got the classifier out of there, and I'm not seeing any big nuggets. Okay, now we'll go ahead and pop the ripples and pull those up. Then we're going to pull our mat out and just kind of roll it up. Then we'll dump that in the pan, and then we'll let put the ripples down so they wash. We want to wash everything clean. Okay, well, the box is clean. I'm going to shut the motor down, then we'll go ahead and clean up the miner's moss, and we can put the box back together. Now to clean the miner's moss, I just turn it over and shake it in the pan. I don't get too silly about cleaning it, because it's not going anywhere. It'll be there the next time I use it. But I do take a look at it, make sure I don't have any nice nuggets stuck in it, and no such luck. Okay, I'm going to take this down, pan it out. I'll be right back. Well, I got that all panned out, and we have got a ton of black sand. And we do have quite a few pieces of fine gold in here. But I'm not going to be taking, it took me quite a while to just pan this down because of all the black sand. So I think what we're going to do, I'm going to pack everything up. Let's head back to the house, dry this out, clean it up, and see how we did. Let me show you the black sand before we go, though. You can see here that we got quite a bit of black sand. All right. See you back at the house. Made it back to the house, and you guessed it, it's the next day. Now I got that black sand all dried out. Now we have to do a little more work on this, to not so much to recover the gold out of it, but we got to finish asking questions about that river. We need to know how much of this is a heavy magnetic black sand. We need to know the size of the black sand, and then the gold. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to run a magnet over it all and pull the magnetic black sand from the regular black sand to get an idea of the ratio. When I pull the black sand off with the magnet, I like to use a magnet. I like these Keen magnets because they're not real powerful, and you don't want to have a real powerful magnet because it just grabs too much at once and it brings everything with it. But what I do is I turn the pan on an angle, and then I'll go just above it so I can see the material moving, and just pull it off till I get some on there. Then I'll dump it. And then just do it again, and that way it allows it to separate as it's falling. Now we're not being real exact with this because we're going to put it all back together here eventually. We just want to get an idea of how much of this is magnetic. Now we have our magnetic black sand. The next thing I want to do is I want to run this through the 50 mesh screen. And I'm going to run it back into the same pan, but I'm not going to mix them yet. Here we have our three different classifications. This is our non-magnetic, and these two are magnetic. Now you can definitely see a color difference between the two. And we got quite a bit of coarse. Some of this is real coarse to the fine ratio. So this is telling me that where we were working in between those boulders, we have a substantial flow because we got a fair amount of coarse sand in here also. But it also tells me that that river is got a lot of mineralization, a lot of if you were to detect in there, you'd probably get a lot of hot rocks and such because most of the black sand is magnetic. Now, so far, the results are pretty good. We got a sizable amount of black sand. We got quite a bit of magnetic black sand, which has a tendency to be heavier than a non-magnetic. And we have a fair amount of coarse black sand. So everything's good so far. Now we got to get the gold out to see if it's worth our trouble for the gold. For the final cleanup and Wayne, I'm not too sure about Wayne. We may not have enough. But let's head on inside because I can't have any wind when I try to clean this real fine stuff up. Okay, well, basically, how did we end up? Well, let me show you the different classifications of gold. Well, actually, there's really only two different. Nothing sat on top of a 20 mesh screen. Everything either sat on top of the 50 mesh or it went through the 50 mesh. Now, I did a 60 mesh, and we had some that sat on top of the 60 mesh, and I looked into 50 mesh, and there was some gold in there, but I don't think a lot. Either way, weight-wise, we're not talking about much weight. Let me show you what sat on top of the 50 mesh. Now, this is the stuff that sat on top of the 50 mesh. Now, what went through the 50 mesh, I pulled out the black sand, the magnetic black sands, and then the only way I could get any idea of what gold was in there, I had to take it out and pan it, which was a lot easier because everything in there was the same size. And let me show you a shot of the gold that's in there. I'm not going to try to separate it because it's just too fine. I don't know how well it's showing it, but you can see we got a little pile of super fine gold up there in the corner. I don't think there's enough weight there to make the scale move, but we'll give it a try. Okay, let's see if it'll weigh. It looks like we ended up with 0.08. Well, that surprised me. I didn't think that would weigh. But for the little pile, 0.08, it's pretty light. The real fine gold like that takes quite a bit to really amount to much weight. That's why, as a general rule, I don't mess with it. I just throw it all in the bucket at the end of the year. I'll run it through with the mercury and then recover it. So what we end up, final results, there's gold in that creek. But for the amount of material I move, not worth my time. If you were to be able to move it mechanically and run it over like a mercury plate or something like that, like did in the old days, you'd find some gold. But with the new modern methods, too small. We're going to go find a better creek. Okay, well, that's pretty much all I got on this one. So I'm out of here. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video.